It is Saturday, June 6th, 2026, and this is The High Road, Logistics and Leadership. I'm Dan Miller, and I'm the relationship guy in a world trying to turn into code.
I'm Jules Sterling.
This is Buck Reynolds.
Elena Rossi speaking. We have a great show for you today.
Look, here's the play. Yesterday was a total whirlwind. We were looking at that Class 8 pre-buy frenzy and the transition away from the founder era over at Knight Swift. But today, we've got a defensive line to hold. We're talking about a massive Ninth Circuit win for federal preemption and a literal customs fortress being built at the border.
Well, it's a packed lineup, and we're going to spend the second half of the show on the digital transformation risk paradox, sort of looking at how your new integrated tech stack might actually be a bullseye for a plaintiff's attorney.
Actually, Jules, it's more than a bullseye. It's a liability explosion waiting for a fuse. But if I may start, we have some very significant news regarding the regulatory balance of power in California. On June 4th, the Ninth Circuit handed a unanimous victory to the motor coach industry in People of the State of California versus FMCSA. The court ruled that federal law preempts California's strict meal and rest break rules for bus drivers. Actually, the three-judge panel decided that the Secretary of Transportation has the authority to block state rules that create unreasonable burdens on interstate commerce.
Right. About time.
It really is. You see, the court noted the administrative record was replete with commentary on the operational disruptions caused by these rules. It basically solidifies that when you're moving through interstate commerce, the federal hours of service rule is the only one that matters.
Look, here's the play. You can't have a team running different plays on every 40-yard line. If the federal rules say you're good, California shouldn't be able to throw a flag at the line of scrimmage just because they want an extra 30-minute break. It's a win for sanity. But look, there's a catch. Because while the feds are winning on preemption, they are simultaneously conducting a massive integrity purge.
I've been hearing about this nearly 200,000 drivers currently being delisted.
Actually, it's serious. They are targeting CDL mills that were essentially selling certifications. My thing is, complacency is the precursor to catastrophe.
Right.
And by removing these drivers, the DOT is essentially performing a massive risk management audit for the entire industry. You see, in a courtroom, one driver from a mill is $100 million nuclear verdict waiting to happen. I'd rather see the capacity squeeze now than see a carrier go bankrupt later because they didn't vet their labor pool.
I mean, the thing is, I'd rather have fewer trucks on the road if it means I don't have to worry about a steering wheel holder losing his brakes on a 6% grade.
Look, it's the integrity era. Here's the play. You consolidate authority, you flush the system, and you hope the security shoring works. But look.
Actually, the security shoring isn't just for drivers. It's for the ports, too.
Right. Because the president just signed a massive executive order on June 3rd on strengthening customs enforcement. Look, it's building a literal customs fortress. It shifts importing from a right to a privilege. And it specifically targets those importers of record, or IORs, especially the foreign entities. Look, if you're a foreign company, you are now prohibited from filing informal entries for low-value shipments. You have to use CTPAT-validated brokers, and you have to prove you have tangible domestic assets here in the States.
I mean, it's about time.
Exactly. And the 50% penalty floor is the hammer. The order mandates a minimum penalty of 50% of the value of the goods for noncompliance. And CBP can't even lower the fine for honest mistakes anymore.
That That's where my clients are panicking. I mean, one paperwork error at the pier could literally bankrupt a mid-sized retailer. Sort of, it makes importing feel like a gamble you can't afford to lose, right?
Actually, Jules, it's a necessary tactical shift. You see, economic ties are being subordinated to national security. It's about security shoring the entire supply chain. If you can't prove who you are and show you have skin in the game, you aren't getting off the boat.
Look, it's a high-stakes chess move against China and Mexico. Bottom line, it's a cleanup of the importer registry. But look.
While we're waiting at the port, the rail data is telling a tale of two tiers. The thing is, rail intermodal traffic is up over 7% just this week, and the IEA is saying energy investment is hitting record highs in 2026. But trucking transportation jobs are still dropping. We lost another 4,000 in January alone. My thing is, if you aren't hauling pipe for the energy sector or moving intermodal boxes, you're currently starving. It's a fractured economy.
Right. And look at UPS. They're leaning into the Amazon glide down, reducing Amazon volume by another 1 million packages a day. They are prioritizing those higher margin B2B and healthcare shipments, sort of, yield over volume. They returned over $6 billion to shareholders, even while their total volumes dropped.
Look, it's a market correction. We lost 125,000 jobs since the 2023 peak. Bottom line, we're trimming the fat. But look, before we dive into the digital paradox, we need to take a second for the people who make this show possible.
Verbatim.
Strategic logistics requires world-class engineering. This show is powered by the stack developed by Eric Christensen at Neural Network Media. Support the architect behind the code. Visit our Patreon at patreon.com/neuralnetworkmedia for a free trial and access to our daily briefing PDF.
Okay, let's get into the deep dive. The digital transformation and fleet risk paradox. Dan, you were looking at the bypass math in Vermont?
Look, Vermont just activated app-based bypass at Putney and Fairhaven. And look, the numbers on this are... here's the play. It's a game changer.
Right? According to the Pre-Pass Mile Marker 2026 Index, a single bypass now returns 7 minutes of drive time and half a gallon of fuel. That's $11.75 in direct cost savings every single time a truck skips the scale. Sort of, if you have a fleet of 300 trucks and they're hitting scales consistently, you're looking at over $830,000 in annual savings.
Look, that's over $800,000 just from not stopping. It's about operational excellence, right?
Actually, Jules, Dan, that's exactly where the paradox begins. Yesterday, Tenet Transportation Tech announced a merger with Crown Data Systems, creating what they call an integrated nervous system for the carrier.
Right.
It combines operations, air freight software, and real-time risk tracking. It's supposed to be the brain of the operation. But my thing is, it's also a total target. Actually, the strategic theme for 2026 is no longer about adopting technology. It's about defending the data that technology generates. You see, in a courtroom, an integrated nervous system is just a treasure map for a plaintiff's attorney. If your TMS recorded a hard braking incident 3 months ago and the driver wasn't coached, that $11.75 bypass savings won't matter when you're facing a $50 million nuclear verdict for negligent supervision. The paradox is that as we integrate these systems, like the Tenet Crown deal, we create a single point of failure for liability. You see, we saw it with the Supreme Court liability ruling we discussed yesterday. Carriers are being held responsible for everything the code knows.
I mean, the thing is, I saw this on the road. Those license plate readers are now part of a network that reconstructs your whole trip. They don't even need to see your ELD to know you've been running over your hours. The digital noose is real.
Right. It's not just about bypassing the scale anymore. It's about the fact that they know you're there, whether you stop or not. If the tech is tracking you for the savings, it's also tracking you for the sentence if you mess up.
Well, but isn't the technology also our best defense? I mean, if the Supreme Court has stripped the liability shields, don't we need the integrated nervous system to prove we're doing our due diligence? Sort of. You know, if we can show we are vetting every driver and every lane with AI, doesn't that protect us from the negligent label?
Actually, Jules, it's only a defense if you're using it to act, not just to monitor. My thing is, complacency is the precursor to catastrophe. If a fleet adopts this tech, but doesn't have the integrity team to review the data, they are just building a bigger exhibit for the prosecution. It's a high-stakes gamble. You see, you have to be ready to manage the nervous system 24/7.
Look, here's the play. It's about security shoring the balance sheet, right? You use the bypass savings to fund the risk management. Bottom line, you can't be a relationship guy in an automated world if you don't understand the automation.
Right.
But listen.
The thing is, the new breed drivers, they think the truck is going to save them. But I'm telling you, a silicon driver can't smell a failing wheel bearing, and the tech stack isn't going to tell you the ice is black until you're already in the ditch. If you integrate the nervous system and the driver stops paying attention to the physical machine, you're just inviting a crash that the data will record in high definition for the jury.
Right, but the tech is what keeps the retail accounts happy. They want transparency. They want to see the GPS stop moving. Sort of. Well, they want to know the nervous system is healthy, right? Well, if I can't provide that data, I lose the contract. So we have to embrace the paradox, even if it means Elena stays in Iron Lady mode all day.
Look, it's a high-stakes chess game. And look, the big carriers, the Schneiders and the Knights, they've already figured this out. They treat every accident report like a crime scene.
Actually, Dan, that's why they're the benchmark. You see, they've recognized that digital transformation isn't a tech story. It's a risk management story.
Right.
If you aren't treating your data with the same precision I treat a ballroom dance routine, you're going to trip. And when you trip at this scale, you fall hard.
Look, that's the bottom line. The average guy is getting hit by the customs fortress at the border, or getting caught in the DOT integrity purge, or getting crushed by a nuclear verdict because his tech stack was a brain without a body.
Well, my deal is, I'm just going to keep tending to my roses and my vintage CBs until the robots take over. But until then, I'll keep reminding these kids that the physical road doesn't care about your nervous system.
It cares about compliance. And as we've seen today, compliance is becoming a digital fortress. If I may, we should probably keep an eye on how these mergers affect carrier capacity throughout the summer.
Look, it's going to be a fascinating season. And look, that does it for us today. From the $11.75 bypass savings to the customs fortress. Stay on the high road. And remember that, bottom line, freight moves on handshakes. Even the digital ones.
Bye. Later.
Bye.
Look, freight moves on handshakes. Even if those hands are covered in code.
See you Monday.